Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. We are once again hanging out with our good friend Alan Coggins. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this is basically a part two, a follow-up conversation that we started almost a year ago when we started this entire venture down the show, right? So the Did You
Yeah.
Know ESCO HVAC show. So when we started this conversation, we started talking about thermal mass energy and changes that can be done to the efficiency for electric furnaces. Because in the past, we've had electric resistive heating elements, and that's about it. Like the only thing that's changed in an electric furnace is the motors, right?
Motors, maybe some staging, and
Staging.
really, that's it. I mean, it's all still based on the 100-year-old technology.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so as we continue to talk about advancing and emerging technologies within our industry, we don't always talk about electric furnaces because we haven't had a lot to talk about besides things like ECM motors. But you have an entirely different perspective on this, and I really hope people grasp this technology and understand what we're doing with it. So let's start out. Let's talk a little bit about this whole thermal storage modularity, and let's talk about Cocoon in general because what you do is very different than what we traditionally think of in our electric furnaces.
Yeah. So, one of the things that, I myself was an installer and service tech for many years. I spent a lot of days in the trenches, in the trade. And,
Absolutely.
anytime you're doing that, it always gives you an opportunity to really figure out, okay, what don't I like, right? What
Yeah.
do I
What
like?
could work better?
Exactly. And, what's going to save my back, or those kinds of things. So,
True.
now that I'm, one of the older guys in the trade, I'm really, wishing I would have listened to some of, when I was the pup, wish I would have listened to some of those guys. So,
Oh, yeah.
and what you're looking at here is our thermal storage and modularity aspect. I mean, you can read on there as you see. There's 5 heating chambers in here. Kind of, coming in, and really this is just a representation of how you can scale this system, how it can keep and can keep scaling too, because you can stack them and all those stack the chambers even more.
The
Other
heating
than
chambers.
horizontal, exactly, other than horizontal or vertical.
Really? Okay.
Downflow doesn't matter. We don't care which way you want to make the air go. We can make it go. And that's kind of like what you're seeing here is just kind of some of the aspect behind that. Let's take where you see the blower chamber is, right, and above that is 2 heating chambers. Well, that's would be very typical to like what we would know of a gas furnace today. However, you're not going to necessarily take a heating chamber and throw that on the return side of the fan,
Right.
especially on a gas system, because, well, they're going to overheat, they're going to melt, they're going to, whatever the case is, right? And we just perform a whole lot different. That it doesn't matter what side of the fan we're on. We can still perform. We're not going to overheat, or we're not going to, melt the heat exchanger down. Those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
really, when you start looking at this, and how can we scale it, right, for different spaces, and
Different applications and
yeah,
designs.
just different applications, a whole 9 yards. Think of it as
Yeah.
building blocks. I mean, we are a direct replacement for any furnace out there, and we provide more solutions than any furnace out there.
Yeah. What if I
You
got a
know,
low boy? A lot of people don't even know what a low boy is. What if
yeah,
you encounter a low boy furnace and you go, okay,
yeah.
what are we going to
Now
do here?
what? Right. Well, let's say that okay. Well, at that point, we can turn around and start throwing heating chambers on the return side of the fan. Because
Mm,
when our heating chambers do go on that return side of the fan, your velocity is less than obviously on the supply side. But minimal. But we perform even better there. I mean, we technically don't even need airflow to run our furnaces. They can still run just like the old gravity furnaces. I
just
don't know if
radiant heat.
yeah, or if too many people ever had a chance to work on a gravity furnace that was
Boy, have
you
you?
know the whole basement, right? It looked
That's
like it anyway. Big spider web
big
thing there.
octopus. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I had a few in my early days, not very many, but I did have a few of them out there. I
yeah,
replaced
same
more than
here.
I actually worked on.
But and that's one thing that we really tried to do was say, hey, we want to be modular to this. And what we found, even like from a year ago, from when we started this, Cliff, honestly, we've been getting more. response, if you will, from everywhere else but America. Canada is big on our systems. I mean, there's
Okay.
crazy temperatures up there,
Sure.
-50 and whatnot, and we're replacing oil systems up there with our furnaces.
Because you can add on modular BTU capacity onto that?
Exactly, the modular BTU capacity,
Okay.
or in this case too, the energy storage, right? So one of the big problems that a lot of the utilities are facing, and I think you're at a show or will be here
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually broadcasting live from the A-Care conference down in
Nice.
Alabama. So sponsored by Alabama Power. And we're at the Alabama Power Educational Facility. So I'll actually have some follow-up videos in the next week or so to talk about the utility involvement with the HVAC industry. A lot of people don't realize how much the utility company is facing as many challenges as we are in the field.
Exactly, and we have a great solution for them, and that's where we've been reaching out to the energy companies, going, hey, look, you guys are worried about peak demands,
Yeah.
and well, we can cut your peak demand by 50% right away. And a lot of that could be through storage, it could be through different control algorithms, just a number of different aspects, and we're seeing more of that happen outside of the states right now than we are, here
Huh.
local, and
I
because
actually get
they're
that.
getting it. I mean, well, in Canada, the government, right? They own the power company.
Right.
So they're all about saving any money that they can, of course, or at least that's what's being told to us. They're, hey,
Right.
if we can cut peak demand, that really helps the power companies. And that's where our system is coming in and providing a solution that hasn't been there ever before. Because
Mm.
we can store that power in, of course, at a heat capacity, or we can store it in battery capacity too. I mean, there's a number of different ways to do that.
Okay, tell me a little bit more because I completely get where you're coming from. Here in the US, we are a little slow to the changes that are happening around the world in our industry, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of old technology that is very much outdated, and we're still, in many cases, selling and installing new equipment that's using very outdated technologies. So we have to be forward thinking and we have to be forward educating on the products that are coming to the market. And you're right, let's face it, electric resistive heating is a very high inrush current in a short period of time. So if we have electric furnaces, electric heating systems that are pull and a draw on a grid all at one time, our temperatures drop and every piece of equipment in that area is running at full capacity. That's a lot of draw on the grid. So we're really trying
Right.
to balance our load on the grid. And how can we do that? Well,
Right,
solution.
right now, this is one of the solutions out there, in my opinion, that is the better solution as well. Is through thermal storage. I mean,
Okay.
just uh, you can turn around. Let's say you have a battery system, right? In which we haven't released those things to the public yet. That we're trying to get to as well.
Hmm.
But let's say you got a Tesla wall or something, right? Well, that's going to store your power from your solar panels.
Exactly.
And so, let's say peak demand is 4 p.m. Okay. Well, of course, you want to run most of your home right off your Tesla wall or, off of your battery power. Well, that's kind of the same thing here. Well, we can preload these panels before the peak demand comes in or the peak rush. And then with a number of different things, we don't have to run every single heating chamber that you see on the screen here. We can run one, we can run two, or we can run zero. It just really depends on how we want to make that control algorithm. Do we want to, preheat everything and let it sit until we need it, or do we want to preheat a portion of it? And let's face it, different solutions or different projects are going to require different solutions.
Right.
And so that's the reason why we're able to adapt to that. And really the contractor can get into our system and make some changes in there. That's not going to, be an issue for the system, but make some other changes to where it's going to fit the space a lot better. And it's just going to run in a better fashion for that customer. And kind of instead of tailoring the home around the furnace, if you will, that's kind of what I feel like that is happening with conventional equipment today.
All
This
right.
is what you're going to get. You're going to
Yeah.
get it in there. You might have a low fire, high fire. That's it. Good luck. It's not enough. Throw in more insulation, right? There's no other give and take there. Where with ours, it's it can definitely be You know, okay, if a sales guy messes something up, well, he can add another heating chamber in order to, so that
Can
way, then
adjust
he's not
the load.
changing out the complete furnace. I
Okay.
mean, again, just more solutions. And that's what I think our industry is really going to end up seeing and needing as well. Because as we get into these energy crises, like we are seeing around the world,
Yep.
let's take the war in Europe, for example. Good Lord, I mean, a lot of those people there have been thrown into such despair because of the energy crisis, because of power stations being, blown up or whatever the case is. Um, Here, this offers a solution that, I think that will help increase our national security and give also the people a peace of mind that, hey, we have power, we can still heat and cool our homes and, those kinds of things, even during times of weather crisis or times of high energy costs. Let's face it, they're almost hand in hand there.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand that we actually do have varying prices of our electric utilities. And I have seen some municipalities that are doing peak demand surcharges. So if
Yep.
you're needing these KWs at peak demand, you're going to pay premium for that. Even in California, we've seen different utility rates based on the time of day that you're actually needing to utilize that utility. And I'm like you, I think we're going to see more of that going forward. So being able to adjust the amount of time and when we're using
Mhm.
those utilities will give us the ability to kind of flex our utility rates.
Well, and let's take for example, like the system that we have here on the screen.
Hmm.
This is again an example of how it becomes a building block, and you can add more, and really, tailor it to what you're needing. If let's say we preheat 3 heating chambers, and then run only one later, or we only need to preheat 4 and then run one. I mean, it really comes down to, we what we find in the areas that are implementing thermal storage is the big complaint becomes down to, well, okay, they've got a heat pump, and yes, the heat pump's great, but they're still having to run the system, and they're still spending energy, right? There's no thermal storage aspect
Sure.
in regards to that. Now you take a heat pump coil and throw in before all of these, like a draw through coil, and
Yep.
now you can actually start utilizing that technology in
And multiple
conjunction with our
stages.
thermal mass technology.
Okay.
And so now you start marrying the two, and now that's when we can say, okay, we can cut peak demands upwards of 50% or better. And it just comes down to the space. I mean, when the big thing that we see is comfort and efficiency are rarely hand in hand, or
True.
comfort and power consumption are
Yeah,
rarely hand,
exactly.
and so that's where we're trying to bridge that gap. And by utilizing thermal mass technology, we're going to be able to do that, increase, in my opinion, increase our country's security, and also put the power back in the people's hands, if you will, if you get right down to it. I mean, I'd rather have a battery system sitting at my house, and one of my furnaces, sitting at my house. And so that the way, if a tornado came through, which we get a lot of here in the Midwest, then we're not necessarily going to be completely out of power or out of heat or out of cooling for that matter.
So this is a good time to kind of dive into this conversation a little bit on thermal mass and thermal storage because maybe our participants don't understand. And by the way, let us know where you're chiming in from. We want to have conversations with you about this topic because thermal mass is not something we spend time discussing in our industry very often. Typically, we think of thermal mass, we think of the design of a structure. So maybe we're in an area where we want to use brick for our exterior so that we absorb heat during the day while we have, usable heat sources. And at night, it's radiating outward. We've all walked up to a concrete block or a brick structure and feel heat radiating at nighttime, going, oh, okay, we have utilized some energy for longer periods of time. And most of our heating sources are instantaneous heating, whether it is a fossil fuel that is we're direct ignition of fossil fuels to produce heat in a short period of time, or we're using electric resistive heating where we're heating up our element, blowing a fan across to get the heat off from it, and then we're shutting the heating element down and we're not doing anything. Or even with our heat pumps, when we are running our refrigeration, our compression cycle, we're moving heat, right? We're in the business of moving heat. Well, no one's ever really said, are we in the business of storing heat? as well. And that's really what you're doing. That's really what this conversation is about.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely right. There's different mediums, of course, that you can utilize. If you think about some of the old, boiler systems, right? It was water inside of those radiators. I
Yes.
mean, it sat there, and again, I mean, it's a storage aspect. But in regards to this, if you'll think about it, think about a geothermal system, right? What makes the geo is the earth, right? Is the big thermal mass, which is the earth. Well, we're kind of doing it backwards, if you will. We've taken the earth and put it inside of our furnace, and utilizing our heating elements inside of the ceramic panels that we use.
Okay.
So it's we're putting that thermal mass inside of the furnace, which allows us to take that energy and store it now, and utilize it in a different fashion than just a quick burn off.
Okay. So we're going to be utilizing, and not just electric resistive heating, which we a lot of times we'll talk about being 100% efficient. We're not really 100% efficient, and I won't dive into that too deep. So we're going to use more of an infrared technology, and we're going to capture our heat, and we're going to store our heat for periods of time.
Right. I mean, let's see if I was getting ready to try to share the screen here, and I could get to that portion on there.
Yeah. Just so we have an idea of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
because the whole storing and using of energy is becoming very new to our industry. Just like we were talking about, like with solar energy and electric storage, we're talking about gathering energy when it is the most readily available and least expensive, and storing it so that we can maximize the potential for its use.
And what you're looking at here, you can see this, right, Cliff?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
what you're looking at here is the inside of our furnace. These black panels that you see there, I mean, that is our heating panels. This particular model, I mean, we can vary the thickness of these heating panels, which allows us to vary the storage,
To absorb the
capacity.
different storage. Okay.
Exactly. How we build these is a bit of a trade secret, and we'll
Oh,
keep it at
absolutely, as it should.
that. But let's just say, there's a lot of other things than just, oh, here's this
Right.
panel and that's it. I mean, there's other things that come into play there. But with this particular one, I mean, we've got 4 heating panels in here. We can change, and these are all 1 inch thick, but we can change different thicknesses in order to allow for more storage time or whatever we need to happen, right? I
Right.
mean, what does the solution require? And that's how we're able to, to get to it. The one other thing that you mentioned there, and I'm not going to actually play through this, but example of strip heat here, running. I mean, if you look at the infrared spectrum here,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see this visible light as when you go from this chart here from right to left, it takes more energy to get up to those areas, right? It takes a lot more energy to run a visible light than it does a microwave, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And when you start to notice that the actual the scale of where this light is, very up and down here, if you will, and compared to what the medium to long wave is, we start to notice some similarities in the actual wavelength, if you will. We tend to run in the medium to long wave, whereas again, the open coil here, as you can see, just an example, visible light, you're going to run more in a short wave aspect on there. And
Okay.
this is what I was just trying to see if this will play. Yeah, maybe not.
Probably not through screen
Not-
share.
Yeah, not through screen share. That's what I was just saying. But so it just allows us that we have taken the insides, the guts, and changed them completely. When people go, oh yeah, you're electric heat. Everybody thinks of this. Everybody thinks of that open coil,
Right.
and they don't necessarily think of, oh, here's a big hot rock, or here's the earth inside of the furnace, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really kind of what the similarity that I was trying to get at, where the geothermal, you're pulling out of that earth, right? It's a big, massive deal of earth that, big mass that you're pulling out of. Well, depending on what the solutions are required is depending on what type of mass we may throw inside of our furnace, how thick they are, how we run the panels, whether they're in a short wave or medium wave or a long wave for that matter.
Wow. So if we think about storing energy and releasing energy. If we say we're taking that electric resistive heating element, we're going to apply inrush of current, we're going to maximize its capability. So we're going to escalate very quickly to its heating capability to 100%. And then as soon as we reduce our current to that load, we're going to drop very, very quickly. So our heat is, well, basically, we're going to lose our heat by the time our time off delay is finished. So, what kind of heat transition patterns can you see? I know it would depend on how many plates you're using, how thick they are, how much heat we've applied, how much energy we've applied to these plates. But are we talking like 2 minutes, 5 minutes of heat?
No, we're so in a single panel aspect, yeah, you're going to be like 20 minutes, if you will,
That's pretty good.
20 to 30 minutes. Now, when
Okay.
you start adding those panels together and you start stacking them up like we did, now we're looking at hours.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not looking at, most of the time in our current systems, in our current furnace systems, not so much for the thermal storage aspect, but let's just say, you had 100,000 BTU gas furnace in your home. You pull that out, put one of our 2,000 systems in there. It's going to have two heating chambers, and basically, call it four heating panels in there.
Okay.
Most of the time we're running those somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes in a cool down time. It varies. It's going to depend on what we're looking at, what we're trying to do, right? What we're running for. And that's where, okay, we're adding that time frame in there. We have that extra storage, and what happens is as we release that heat, we're getting more air changes per hour into the home. You're releasing those BTUs, but you're releasing them at a degraded rate. Okay, so over time it slowly drops, right? Whereas the conventional electric, you turn the power off, it's a straight drop back down to ground floor.
Exactly.
That's it. And so what we see is we get better comfort, we get better air quality, just all around better exchange if you get right down to it, from energy into heat form, and then of course into comfort, if you will, is what let's face it, that's what the customer is worried about. Am I going to be warm? Am I going to be cold? So on and so forth. And speaking about cold, it brings me to this, is that if we take that A coil and we put that A coil on the return side of the fan, as I was saying, we could use the heat pump technology for maybe preheating our panels,
right?
Or we can use the heat pump technology, or let's say cooling technology in the summertime. Now we're cooling those panels down. And what we find is,
so you're utilizing the thermal mass even as a cooling function.
that is correct.
Removing the heat off from the thermal mass and using the thermal mass as heat absorption.
Yeah, and so what we find is that it's not nearly as linear, if you will, like it is
Sure.
in the heating side
mode,
of things,
right?
But what we see is we get some better air changes. We also get the better comfort, because now you're getting those air
Consistency.
changes per hour.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the efficiency aspect, we're okay. Well, now we're getting all of that extra time, in there, upwards of 20 minutes to 40 minutes, of extra runtime on the blower, which is now, you're getting that better comfort again, because of those air changes and whatnot.
Okay, well, that really brings a different perspective to it. I hadn't even thought about it from the cooling aspect, only from the heating aspect.
Yeah, that I prefer. I mean, if we can, we've even wrote programs into the furnace to where, let's face it, if you did a draw through coil, on any other conventional system, you're going to have to stop it as soon as the as soon as the temperature, as soon as the thermostat is satisfied, right, with the right temperature. And the reason why is because if you continue to run that blower, you're going to put all that humidity right back into the house.
Okay.
Or right back into the space.
Absolutely.
So what we do is we actually stop the blower when the thermostat's satisfied, drain the coil for a set amount of time, and then kick that blower back on, because those plates are still, nice and cool. Right. And so we're seeing that, that we're getting that extra runtime and, just the extra comfort level all through there on the cooling side of things as well.
That is a very, very interesting perspective I had not thought of. I mean, really, this kind of round two has just opened up so many different thoughts as to ways you can utilize the technology. You'd mentioned something a while ago about generator use, and then my brain just went, "Hold on, I got to come back to that. Is this like round three, or we bring this in round two?" I mean, let's think about that just for a minute, because we've had pretty catastrophic weather patterns that we've seen
Yeah.
in many areas. We've had plenty here. My own in-laws lost their home to a tornado just a couple months ago.
Oh
And
goodness.
yeah, so, the realities of power outages are very real. And the reality of running some equipment on a generator is becoming more popular. So let's talk about those opportunities just for a second, too.
Yeah, so let's say you have a set of batteries, right? So I'm and actually I'll have this at the show with us.
Okay,
We're coming down to the show, the National HVAC Education Conference. We're going to present there as well,
awesome.
and then so we're bringing down equipment so everybody can get hands on. So that way they can see that, hey, oh wow, I wish I would have had this. Now I wouldn't have had this bad back anymore, or all that kind of stuff, right? And so we're also bringing our battery system down, and the whole again is to show that, hey, look, we can store power in numerous ways,
Right.
right? First, let's say battery or even generator in an emergency crisis aspect, but storage aspect, battery system. Okay, now how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with that? How much storage do you need? What are you trying to run? Let's face it, if you look at most of the downtimes, I mean, short of a massive crazy F5 tornado or something ridiculous, most everybody's going to be up within a few hours. Now you get the storms and whatnot, people are out 2-3 weeks, of course. Well, with a battery storage system, you can now use renewables. You can now store that power and then use it when needed through the furnace. And then let's say you store it in the energy aspect of batteries. Okay, well, now you can also store it if you needed to, if the solution required it, in a thermal aspect, in order to really cut that peak shaving time in numerous ways other than just
Hmm.
thermal storage. I mean, it really comes down to smart energy management and smart energy storage, all through, whether it's battery or through thermal. And then once you have that energy, what do we do with it? How do we utilize it the best way possible? And that's where, going back to the data of your home and all those kinds of things, going back to the data of the furnace. Our furnace does data log too. All the chambers,
Okay.
they'll data log, and then we can take that and say, okay, these are your peak times, or we can do all kinds of different things with it, write new control algorithms for that home. Because let's face it, no two homes are the same, right? They all got different needs to them as well. So there's just a number of different ways that the smart energy management really needs to take play here. And I think that's when we start looking at that as as
Energy
as a
solution.
exactly, as an energy solution, and get away from just, heat pumps are the end all to be all. And I keep going back to pick on them, even though I do like pairing with them,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Makes
but
sense. Yeah.
I feel like right now everybody in our industry is just heat pump blind. It's been shoved down our throat, and yes, great technology, but it's not, and it's not the end all to be all.
Well, I think about some of our newer energy solutions like solar, right? We've got, like, say, Orange County in California is requiring solar for new constructions. We're going to start seeing a lot more renewable energy going forward. And think about that from a heating solution. This really has opened my mind to what an energy solution is. So, my wife and I have bought some property, and as we are starting to prepare the property, I keep thinking of what are solutions that I want to use, what are technologies that I would like to demonstrate, even just for our audience, and things that could be useful going forward, right? So I'm sitting here
Mhm.
thinking, okay, what if I'm utilizing solar? And a lot of people don't realize, if you utilize a solar field and you sell your excess energy back during the day, you're not selling it at retail, right?
No,
You're selling it at wholesale, basically.
that's right.
So, what if I was, during the day, instead of selling back my excess solar energy, I was storing it maybe in battery form, but also, especially in my colder times of the year here in the Midwest, storing it as thermal energy in my furnace?
Yep. And And really, I think that the best of both worlds there. I mean, and I'm doing it right now. I mean, that's the big thing is that,
Okay.
we have them out there and we're running them, where it is some battery storage, and then, it is also the thermal storage. And, it really comes down to, okay, yeah, I just renewed my batteries with my solar panels, right?
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
my batteries are full.
They're full.
Well, in conventional systems, it's just going to know off or on. That's
Yeah,
it. Well, with ours, we're able to talk to that and say, hey, look, yeah, it's full here. We want to be able to use that now, use that power now. Forget the grid,
yeah,
or oh, hey, there is no grid there because of the storm
right.
or whatever. Switch over to the battery power, and vice versa. And that's where, I tell everybody, that we are a path to energy independence, or a path to, sustainability.
Sustainability. That's
They're
the
one
key.
and the same. It just really, it
Mm,
depends on what side of the political aisle you sit on, is
that's
depending on
true.
what vernacular you're going to use.
Yeah.
But they are one and the same. And, it really comes down to smart energy management. And I think us, as an HVAC manufacturer, we're leading the way on this. And, this is the wave of the future. I mean, I think our systems are going to have to be very, very versatile.
Right.
We're here in Missouri, and in Missouri, we can get all 4 seasons in one day. I
I
mean,
hear you. Yeah.
that Mark Twain said it best. You don't like the weather in St. Louis, wait 5 minutes,
Wait 5 minutes. Exactly.
So, but I mean, again, that's what we need. And that's what I think that our HVAC technicians and everybody really need to be focusing on. It's not just, oh, hey, here, go work on this furnace anymore. We need to be thinking as we are the solution for these people, meaning to the energy crisis to their home,
Right.
because if they got leaky windows, our program's going to pick it up. We'll be able to find it because we'll see the heat loss, we'll see the heat gain, all of those. If you start thinking about that data and you start collecting that data on your home, it becomes so valuable that you can really start to tie in, okay, what do I need? Yeah, my furnace has got extra long run times. My house was built in the 20s and I have no insulation in my walls. You know, Recently I was up in Canada, up in the Newfoundland area, and where
Mhm.
we have Newfoundland and Labrador. That is the coldest place on earth that we have a furnace where, we're seeing negative 50s, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, and we're up there replacing oil furnaces. And if you
Wow.
took somebody from an oil furnace and took them to a conventional electric furnace or a heat pump, you're going to have nothing but
They'd
a
never afford it.
very
Yeah.
well, they're going to be very, very crabby because
Yeah.
it's going to be cold.
Right.
That's not what I'm used to, and we're not experiencing that. They love the way that our heat is, and those kinds
No
of things. But
kidding.
but and that's why we're
Wow.
we're we're seeing this is that as you scale the product too. I mean, we can do a lot of what kind of temperature rises do you want or need? We have some playroom that we can get a 40-degree rise upwards to a 60 to 80-degree rise. I mean, if we get into some of the industrial stuff, even more than that. So there's just a number of different things that what I'm seeing, not just in the U.S. but all across the world, if you will, is that everybody needs a robust system, a system that's going to be able to adapt to the home, to the climate,
Right.
and
To
to
the
the customer,
environment. Yeah.
and to the customer.
100%. Man, you've came a long way since we last talked.
Yeah, we have.
So
We've got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of stuff, a lot of big stuff happening, and
sure.
yeah, from a guy who was in a service truck, years ago, I never thought my career would take me, around the world, but it is.
That's the beautiful thing about this industry, and we talk about this very regularly. As we're preparing students in the classrooms to go out into the field, well, what does the field look like? We keep saying the field.
Yeah,
Well, without actually clarifying all the opportunities, because it kind of is like a field, but it's a huge field that goes
yeah,
in so many different directions. And being aware that we are a solutions provider, whatever aspect you end up in the industry, we are a service. Whether you're in
hmm
heating, cooling, refrigeration, we are a part of the service sector. And we are finding solutions for our homeowners and for our business owners. So being aware of what the different opportunities and what the different technologies and innovations are in the industry is very much our responsibility as educators. And kudos, man. You're a prime
Thank
example
you.
what you can do in this industry.
Thank you. I've always been a bit of a Trekkie, right? I
Yeah.
love Star Trek and Star
Mhm.
Wars and all that. And I used to always like, they're engineers, right?
Yeah.
Is they were always working on a warp drive or something. But
Yes.
let's let, let's just stop for a second there. Who is that going to be in the trades?
Yeah. Who's
That's
going
your
to
HVAC
own
guy.
that responsibility? It
That's
is the
right.
HVAC guy or gal.
Yeah. I mean,
Completely.
it's, your HVAC people, and we are the most trained in the trades. I'm going to be, going to be biased on that, but it is the truth. I mean, we have to know chemistry, we have to know geometry, and you have to have common sense. Well, all of that. So, I mean, it really comes down to that. And it's like, when I think about that, I think our industry, that's where our industry will eventually morph, long after us, when we do start exploring the stars and everything else. Um, Elon Musk can get us there. I can keep us there. You know,
Well,
I'm
think about that. No matter where we go, no matter where civilization moves to, you're still going to need people to move heat.
That's right.
You're
Yeah,
still going to
people
have
want to be comfortable.
comfort. It's all about that comfort and quality. And we really are a solutions provider. And I agree. This is a fantastic industry. It has so many opportunities. It has so many solutions. We look at the world around us and, we have energy crisis. We have environmental crises. We have all these transitions that are happening. And some people are really just getting a little freaked out and excited. And we're going,
Yeah, we can handle it.
thank you. Bring it here. We will do something with it. We will take this broken thing and we will make it functional.
You
And
know,
that's
one
what a
one
lot
of
of
the
us enjoy.
one of the things that I've really learned over this time too is that I went to school, and I did this, and
Yeah.
just stayed in that, and that
Yep.
was it. And it's like, even as we talk about the field, right? The field changes. So I'm in, call it St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
You know, you go about 8-9 hours in either direction. It's similar, but it's not the same. I
So
mean,
true.
they're facing different issues, whether it's 9 hours south of me or 9 hours north of me. There's going to be separate issues that both of them are going to face. And I think that's where, really, that our industry needs to continue to focus on, just not just, oh, hey, turn out service guys, throw them in a truck, and there you go. No, it needs to be a whole package. It needs to be, yes, you can do service. Yes, you can do installation. The more, I mean, because let's just face it, we are the highest skilled, trade, in my opinion, again. So,
I hear
um,
you.
but I think that that's exactly what I hope the industry continues to flow to, is that, turning out, you know, um, new people that can do, not just focus in one thing, if you will, but can do it all, because I think it's going to be needed.
It is. And technology is pushing us that way. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of different avenues that are merging. And so we have a beautiful combination of technical skills and intellectual skills, especially in the IT side. So we have this blend of generations coming together. And without our young technicians and students coming through, I don't think we'd be successful, because they're bringing in an education of technology, and we're bringing a education of mechanical experiences and application. And as we are merging these, we're able to solve problems. We are able to create new solutions for things that we've been struggling with for decades. The energy crisis has never really went away. We've just accepted it. And so our industry hasn't moved as fast as many other industries, because we just accepted that it was okay to stay where we were. And now we're in a transition that is not that. We're in a evolution. Actually, part of our conference is going to be discussing that, the evolution of education. We are in that moment, and it's probably going to make some people uncomfortable. But that's where we are. It's where we have to be. And we have to be able to merge experiences and innovations and technologies and bring up a new generation of technicians that need to be aware of what they can do, the changes they can make.
Yeah, this summer we hired a couple of young guys. Just, actually, one's still in high school, one's just out of high school, and just trying to show them, hey, that there is more to the industry than go to school, get in a truck, and go do install and service.
Right.
There is a lot more to the industry than that, but you still need that.
Yeah.
You need to go get and pay some dues, and go get in some nasty basements and go get in some nasty attics. I think that the education you get from that, is priceless. You're not going to get that in a classroom setting or in a lab.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the customer's not down there screaming at you, or whatever, but kind of thing. So
I love these conversations with you because you get it. I mean,
thank you.
I hope everyone in the audience understands that you're talking to two professionals, but you're talking to two technicians.
That's right. Yeah.
We have both been through the field. We have both shared all of our time in crawl spaces, in attics, in dirty, grungy places, and yet we are still here because we enjoy what this industry actually is.
Yeah, and you know what, I really think that as we continue to and I kind of heard at the last conference that the enrollment has been kind of up for the industry and across the board, which is great news. But let's face it, we're gonna find another time where we're having people retire. We're facing some different things in regards to that as well. People are aging out.
Crazy how many we're losing. Yes,
exactly. And we're going to need technology to span that gap.
Yep.
Because there's no other way. I mean, you can't.
I agree.
You can't just take somebody fresh off the street, if you will, and throw them in a truck and expect them to make you money.
No.
They've got to have some experience. They got to have the training and everything else. And that's where, again, that we've tried to design that into our technology as well, is that, we have some, call it, a safety net there, that, with our system, we can dial into it. And I'm showing my age there, a little bit. I don't think you dial into anything anymore.
I think the potentiometers have ran their due time.
Yeah. But you get into it, and then you can pull the data. You can see what's wrong with it. You can follow the program, where, oh, wow, here it is. Now some of this stuff we haven't released yet, but, this is the direction that we're going. And, I think it's obviously a direction a lot of other companies are going too.
Yeah. Tracking and trending and data collecting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're just going to be able to give your customer so much more with all of that.
Yeah. No, 100%. Man, I love this conversation. This is, there's some days I feel like I'm ringing the bell by myself, and people are going, "You're just crazy." Are you? Yeah. No, this is just the reality of where we are. That we have a lot of new technologies and innovations we have to become aware of. I mean, when we think about this, let's just go back here for a second. We're talking about thermal energy solutions for the home. We're not talking about a new exploration of technology. We're talking about it's already here.
That's right.
We need to understand it. We need to be able to promote this and help our technicians understand the things that they're going to see. A lot of the programs that we go to visit, I see technologies that are a little outdated. And it's not because of, it's not intentional. It's just we're teaching on technologies that we're accustomed to. And now we're in this fast-paced transition of technologies, and we have a lot of opportunities to teach things that are coming. And so we also have to help prepare our educators as well. So let's talk about opportunities to help teach educators about these resources and where they can go if they're wanting to discuss implementing thermal mass furnaces into their program. Because if we're teaching electrical, we're already there.
That's right. Well, one of the things, obviously, check out our website and, sign up on there, and, we can help with some of that. As far as like, get the information, we'll get in touch with you guys and, get some resources over to you as well. That presentation I was running through earlier, we try to make that abundant, to all the educators
available.
we can. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks. I'm still on some some medicine here from
Yeah.
surgery yesterday. So yeah,
Those that are just joining, we're grateful that you even made it to the show today. So,
thanks.
yeah, some emergency tooth removal is not a
Yeah,
fun thing. And
no, it wasn't. So doing interviews on some painkillers is a lot of fun. But no, it's,
but you're also going to be bringing some of this technology to the conference,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right.
Yeah, we are. We're bringing the technology. We really want a hands-on experience.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
everybody there, because it's one thing to sit and talk about it.
Yep.
It's another thing to look at it. And when we, I got to speak last year at the conference,
Yes.
and I'll get to again this year. Looking forward to it. We brought just like some of our controls,
Hmm.
and everybody loved that. And then immediately when I seen that, I was like, okay, no, we've got to get systems here so that the way
Yeah.
they can put hands on it, they can see it, they can
Take a
see
look
how
at this.
easy it is to work with.
Right.
Because as one of the things that you said about is that I was an installer, I was a service technician,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, I didn't like carrying big heavy furnaces up and down stairs and in attics, and oh, it doesn't fit, and I mean all those other things. And so I think when everybody really does actually get a chance to see this and put their hands on it, that's when it's just going to click and go, holy cow, why didn't we do this earlier?
Yeah.
It just that's one of the things that I see in the industry too, is that a lot of the people, a lot of the contractors, when you talk about the technology and we need how quickly the technology is moving, we're still finding contractors out there going, yeah, we don't want nothing to do with anything new.
Oh, I know.
It just blows my mind, because it's
Absolutely.
like, well, all right, either you stay up or you get left behind, one of the
Yeah.
two. And it's kind of dumbfounding to me. It's like, you should always have your mind open to something, something new, especially if it's going to make you money.
I have that exact same struggle very regularly when we talk about the direction of our programs. A lot of times our PAC meetings are led by companies that are not as forward thinking, and so I hope that as contractors you are working with your schools to help drive the directions of technology, and that you're keeping up with the trends and the innovations by giving recommendations to your school. Hey, we want to learn more about this. We want to know what's coming. We want to be prepared. And let's gather at the National HVACR Education Conference and let's talk about what we need to have to be well prepared, because we're talking about a lot of technologies that most of us as educators are probably not going to have the hands-on experience unless we're in this environment.
That's right. That's right. And I mean that's a big thing. And I see one of the questions coming in here, on how to give the apprentices some, how to attain the knowledge and whatnot.
Yes,
Um,
you're here.
yeah, how to attain it. Good Lord. Never stop learning.
That's
I
it.
mean, just never stop. Just keep going. Have that, that apprentice just get in there and get everything they can. And even when they're done with service, go into installation or sheet metal or, those kinds of things, or even into tab, testing and balancing. I mean, I loved being a tab technician. I mean,
Oh
that was
my.
it was fun work,
Yeah, I bet.
but I wouldn't have been able to do it had I not had the experience beforehand,
I agree.
had I not had the education beforehand.
Hmm.
But it also seemed a way that I could just continue to advance my career and continue to learn and continue to retain. And it honestly, it helped me with all of this that we're doing now.
I'm with you, my friend. I keep telling everyone the best thing you can do is be aware when you plateau.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
plateau, it's time to look at some of the other avenues. It's time to look at some of the other opportunities. Because, Matt, what if I'm a technician and I get to a point where, okay, I'm a good technician. What do I want to do next? Well, if I learn about the new technologies, I mean, think about this. We already have pieces of this equipment installed in the field. Who's going to work on that? Who's going to give that maintenance? Who's going to be the premier technician, even in residential and like commercial applications? These
Mhm.
are the kind of roles that you are looking to prepare yourself for. So that was my problem many times in my development. Is I would get to a plateau and go, okay, I'll just stay here for a while, and then sometimes stay too long. So always be looking for new information, new opportunities, and testing your own skills. I highly encourage anyone listening to test your own skills and the skills of the students that you're preparing. I myself am right now working on my CMHE, my Certified Master HVACR
Yeah,
Educator, right? It is tough. I've gotten through two of them. I got five more to go. I just did one last week. And what I'm realizing is, even myself, I have to be able to assess myself to know what I need to learn to get to the next stage in life. I mean, how can you validate something if you don't test, right?
that's right.
So it's very important to know where we are and to be able to see where we can go.
Yeah, and I really think that's probably the best advice, Matt, that you could give the apprentice is
Mm.
just don't stop.
Mm-mm.
Eat it all up, everything you can, and yeah, never stop learning.
Yeah. It's a beautiful adventure when we take the time to do that. I tell people ask all the time, "How did you get where you're at?" I was like, "Well, I actually started in TV, radio, film.
Yeah,
I had a mobile DJ business when I was a teenager, and I went to college for TV, radio, film until I realized that I just liked fixing stuff. And
yeah,
then I got into the trades, and it's ended up full circle. But while I was in the field, I did push myself and moved into new directions. I got to where I am by learning about new technologies and staying up to date with trends. I was always looking to be able to be the technician that could work on that new thing. And when you put that mindset to yourself, the avenues are endless.
yeah. It's you can do it in any of it. That's for sure. Is just keep rolling.
And Todd, that's right. Congratulations, my friend. Todd just passed his CMHE. And
Congrats.
but the same way, so Todd is just like us. He's a technician that has become an educator and is helping give back to the industry. And
Yeah.
the only way we can do that is to know what we don't know and then go out and find it.
And actually, Todd had a question on there that I wanted to address as well. The industry is transitioning to the building electrification with the push via DOE.
Mhm.
And there's a need for this, but plenty are skeptics in how to teach. It can exceed a COP of 1 to 1. I mean, they already are. In regards with heat pump technology or geothermal technology. And really, Todd, my best is comes down to data, right?
Yes.
I mean, um, it, you know, it's amazing to me. We can literally sit and take data and show it to the two people. Here's the old, here's the new, and they're still like, oh my gosh, we went through an underwriter process or underwriter laboratory process to verify our energy claim because we had the claim in 2018 to 2020 of that, we can use up to 41% less energy to produce heat. Well, immediately people go, oh, you're breaking the laws of physics. Said, no, we're not. We're not breaking the laws of physics. We're
No,
just not building the same darn thing as everybody else.
exactly.
I mean, and therein lies the difference. You can have two red cars and one's a Ferrari, and the other one's a Yugo. I guarantee just because they're both automobiles, one's going to be better than the other, and I go red because, it's our color, but
Your color.
yeah. I think that some of that education, right. I
Yeah.
think some of our people at DOE, quite honestly, when you get into that level, and I've learned a lot about this, you're playing the bureaucratic game at that point. You know, Everybody likes their job. Nobody wants to say anything to, possibly, jeopardize their job or anything else. And that's where it's like, we've stopped trying to go, hey, this is what we do. Look at it and go, you know what? I'm from the show me state. I'll just show you and just let the product speak for itself, and let our testimonials speak for themselves. I
Yeah,
mean, we've
they are
got
really
people out there.
positive.
Yes, and we got people out there saying how much money they're saving, and yes, we're cutting bills. We're cutting energy consumptions, and and so I just stopped asking for permission and just said, you know what, it's time to hit it and hit it hard,
Love
and
it.
I don't. Their opinion of me is none of my business. So that's just kind of the way I look at it, and our products perform. We know what they can do, and we just make it happen.
Love it. All right, let's open up the chat box for any questions, comments. Todd, really appreciate you joining. Matt, and we still have quite a few people out there hanging in. If you have any questions, let's bring them up right now because we still got a few minutes left, and it's a good time to do some recap opportunities. So what's next?
What's next for
Yeah,
us?
a lot of people don't realize how innovative you are. Let's
Yeah,
talk about some of your previous innovations. We're not just working on thermal mass technologies.
yeah.
While we're waiting for anything else in the chat, tell us a little bit more about where
So,
you've been in innovations.
all the LED lights you see on the roadway today, I'm the guy that kicked that off in the country.
Isn't that
Um,
crazy?
I invented the nation's or made whatever the first, LED light, which is funny because how light and infrared, I mean, it's two things, right? It's the
Right.
same. So I really learned a lot about lighting back when I made that and just, different spectrums and where it runs and all that kind of stuff. And I made the nation's first hybrid LED street light, used wind and solar power, 100% off grid. And
Mm.
we lit up a Arnold Police Memorial on that for 18 years. Not a dark night in 18 years, and then politics came and took that down. So
Oh, wow.
gotta love politics. But so yeah, I've had other energy inventions and other energy innovation. Mainly in the lighting industry more than anything else.
Yep.
But yeah, and as far as next, I mean, we're moving into Europe. We're seeing. I have some other things. Oh, I just got another patent. So that was a really good deal. Just got another patent on my furnace now. We've got
Look at you.
2 of them.
Nice.
So yeah, thank you. And we've got a couple others that I can't talk about that
Understood.
we're taking the technology and in other ways. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I can
But
appreciate that.
it's still in the HVAC realm.
Okay.
And so, to service mainly the European market.
Mhm.
But, they still have some forced air systems over there. Castle heating, I really love the castles. So, I mean, that's a challenge to me, right? We have one furnace in a castle in Italy, and we're heading back there in September. And, just to really hopefully kind of scale the systems there
Okay.
in that particular castle. But I love that because it's unique and
Yeah.
it's
An interesting challenge.
well, and it's a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you get efficiency in a 2,000-year-old, 4-foot thick
Structure. Yeah.
structure?
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
you do everything we can, right? So,
Wow.
but yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things coming up there. We've got some releases coming out here shortly. We're getting ready to have another UL listing on our product as a duct heater. So we can take the thermal
Oh.
mass and utilize somebody else's blower.
Yep.
That hopefully, I don't know if you've seen in the thermal mass or in the thermal storage sheet there that it was saying pending August. So we're hoping to have that UL listing in August there. Which we're hoping that'll open up some other markets for us. We know it will. It's just
Getting
but
in there.
yeah, and just keep going. I'm really trying to get one onto the moon. So, I just wake up every day and say, okay, I'm going to put a furnace on the moon, and eventually one day it'll happen. But
That's how dreams happen, my friend.
right, you just got to one foot in front of the other. So, and yeah, just trying to get into some really, really cold places. I mean, like I said, we've got some furnaces up there in Labrador, and I think he said we're like 128 miles or something like that outside of the Arctic Circle. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, ask Elon. I like it, Todd.
Awesome.
Never know unless you ask.
No, that's exactly right. Well, cool. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you.
Alan. I just absolutely appreciate our conversations. And I think we've just got everyone out there scratching their heads going, okay, I'm going to have to do some follow-up. So we shall continue this conversation. And we appreciate you all for joining us today. And we'll see you next week. Actually, I won't see you next week. I will be on vacation next week. Jason and Renee are going to be running the show, but I've got a little video that I'm going to hop in there, so I'll be with you all in the scene anyhow. So
Yeah.
everybody
Well,
have a
hopefully you're going someplace fun and tropical and beautiful.
local, but just a good getaway and a good wind down, which we all need sometimes.
Nice.
All
Yeah,
right.
and thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Alan, we sure appreciate you, and everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC Show.